right, so this is our agenda today. So we're gonna solve this problem, randomly popping shape first. Okay. All right. So in this particular problem, guys, you are given some code to start with, right? So so you must basically start off with this template code I have given, and then add that function. Okay. So and notice I haven't added any turtle module or random module, so you'll have to import them. Okay. So so let me put that first. Okay. And we also need random module, right? So I'm going to import that as well. Okay. Okay. All right. So this is our prompt. Okay. So do we have any inputs here? In this problem, the inputs? Yeah, in the problem statement we don't, right? So and you can see there's no vocabulary of input, right? But if you take a look on the improvement, you can think of one, right? The colors, right? So I'm gonna write anyway. So colors, but we'll consider that later. Okay, guys. So what's the output? Um, yeah, for the first one, just a random shape, right? So a random shape out of the three, right? Okay. So okay. So are there any restrictions? Yeah. Don't alter, and you have to use the given function as well, right? So use functions given. It's given, and yeah, can you move it? He actually almost fell actually. I am so sorry, actually. And I'm so sorry about that. And then and then don't alter, right? So all right. So so basically, so we will have to create a criteria, right? So because there are three random choices, three shapes to draw randomly, right? And then we basically have to pick one randomly, right? So pretty much that's the same thing we have to do in rock paper scissors problem. That's why I actually said to you guys, this is kind of a match for that problem, right? In the rock paper scissors problem, right, we actually pick either rock, paper, or scissor. The computer pick them randomly, right? So and then so there are three random choices, so you can actually generate random number with three possibilities, right? And pick one. Here also same situation. We are going to draw three things randomly, right? So three choices. So then we should use a random number um, with possibility of generating three choices, right? So that's what we're gonna do. Okay. So so how can we then test this out? So what should be the programming construct do we have to use here to test the to pick the one randomly? Yes. Mm-hmm. Then yeah. So logically, how do you do it in the code? Then we'll have to yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So don't we have to use if else? We have to, right? To pick in the numbers, right? Yeah. So we'll have to basically we'll have to so for checking whether this is one or two or like three, like we'll have to use a if else statement. Okay. So let's we can directly write our plan. So because the code for the drawing each drawing you are given the code, right? So we can directly go to the planning, right? So let's write that. Okay. So I'm gonna say input colors, or say a list of colors. Okay. And so that's step one. Two, right? So we have to generate a random choice, right? So random choice. Um, choice of um, three possibilities, right? Okay. And then step three, now we're gonna check, right? So if okay, random choice is one, again I'm gonna go with zero. Okay. Um, I would say of 0 to 2. Okay. If it is equal to 0, so this is so it's your choice. Okay. So you are free to pick the criteria in whatever the way you want it, but you have to make sure it's only three possibilities because we are running three um, shapes randomly, right? So so make sure the number of possibilities is to the amount equal to the amount of the three thing that we need to the thing number of things that we need to do randomly, right? So for example, in reality, right? So you need to pick 6 tasks out of um, one 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 task out of 6 tasks, and what can you do in real world? Roll a die, right? And pick create a criteria for yourself. Okay, if it's roll one, I'll do this. If it's roll two, I'll do this. Something like that, and then roll a die, right? Something like that we are doing here, right? Okay, so this should be 3.1. So basically, I'm gonna say, well, I'm gonna just copy paste this one, guys, because we are the name is expressive, so I'm going to write that. So draw equilateral triangle if it is 0. Okay. And then step 4. So we need else if, right? If this is equal to 1, and then basically I'm going to say 4.1. Okay, draw square. Okay, and last one, else, right? So else, so pretty much draw circle, right? For 5.1, draw circle. All right, and that's it. Okay, so that's the plan, and then this basically the minimal working one. Okay, so just have like make sure that actually it's actually correct. Okay, so the, it's really important that when in programming your plan should not be vague, as well as it should be correct. Okay, otherwise we'll end up with the wrong solution, right? So let's write our code over here. So I'm going to actually do it over here. Okay, all right, so let's give it a name, def draw random shape. Okay, so since we also take a turtle, so I'm going to also take a turtle as an input. Okay, so let's say Ted. Okay, so sorry, Tom. And then we're gonna use a list of colors later on, so I'm gonna input that one, but we'll use it later. Okay, so docstring draws a shape randomly out of 3 shapes. Okay, all right, so line 2 we're gonna generate this one. Okay, random choice choice, right? All right, how do you generate the random choice here? What's the function? Yeah, dot rand int, and the input can be 0 to 2, right? All right, so now we can do the write the rest of the code. So if random choice equal to 0, so I'm gonna simply copy paste and change. So what do we need here? Equal to means, yeah, so the equal to operator in Python, right? So this one, right? And then we call this function, right? So draw rectangles. Okay. um, okay. So I'm gonna change this to a single color, guys, color, and then we'll change that later. Okay, so this goes in here, and then this third this goes in here, right? All right, all right, so next one, basically this one, else if, right? And this one, so it's elif equal to 1, so equal to operation. Okay, and we call the square function, right? And this one, and then basically else, right? We call the circle drawing function. same. All right. Okay, that's it. Right. So let's try to run this. So I'm going to go to the main program. All right. So now here, what should be the first parameter? TED, right? So guys, remember, right? This names like like this one, this it's stored over here, right? So, but here it's TED, which is going to be the actual parameter, right? So this is going to be TED, right? So these two names, one at the definition and one in the call, can be same or different. Okay, either way it's correct. Okay, so right now it's different, right? So it's stored over there in the definition, TED over here in the call, right? So um, and then it can be different, the names, or same, doesn't matter. Okay, and then we're going to learn more on that actually week after next week when we learn functions lesson. Okay, so but the thing is, they are totally independent two things. So one is in the definition, the other one is in the call. They are related, but two independent things. Okay, so for now, remember them like that. And then we're gonna learn about the scope in functions 2 lesson. Then we learn the actual the connection between the two and also the differences. Okay. All right. So let's say, and then for example, here I'm going to put color equals gray. So see that it's the same name now. Okay, just to show you, yes, they can be same or they can be different as well, but make sure the names are meaningful. Okay, all right. So let's run this one. Okay, red is, oh, I think I should put quotation, right? Yeah. Oops. Okay. All right, random choice. I think yeah, it's a misspelling. Yeah, is it? Yeah, I changed that, right? Um, yeah, right here. Yeah, okay. All right, it's working, right? So now it's a red circle, red square, red circle, red square, red, red triangle. But it's all red because we are just passing just one red color, right? Okay. So how can we make the color also random now? So this is the improvement, right? Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I'm gonna basically copy this code and then make it function 2. Okay. Oops. And this is colors now because it's actually list. Okay. So it's function 2. Okay. All right. So how can we pick? So this is a list of colors now. How can we pick color randomly now from this list? Yes. Yep. Yeah, we can do that way as well. But there's a more easier way to do that, right? Okay. So here's the documentation, right? See the choice. Okay. So you have see that a CQ means a sequence. So how many sequences we have learned so far? One is for very first one we learn strings, sequence of characters, right? Then list, right? Sequence of items. There's one more, tuples. Sequence of again items, right? So this can be any sequence in Python. Okay. So for example, this is what I have in from the other class, right? So I imported random choice. This is my list of colors. So I got green, right? So if that thing is, see that like a string like that, so this right now the sequence is a string over here, right? So you'll get randomly picked letters, right? But in our case we need a random list of colors, a list of colors, right? And we have to pick one from that list. So choice function does that actually, right? So likewise, okay. So sorry, yellow is actually misspelled. Okay. So we're gonna use this color list in our code. Okay. so we're gonna basically say color choice. Um, is that spelling is correct? CH. Okay. All right. So it's a list of colors, and then I'm gonna add a few more colors. Let's say like orange and pink as well. Okay. And then basically, so sorry, this is not the answer, right? This should be like random dot rand, sorry, choice, and then the list, right? Okay. Well, okay. So colors should. Oh, sorry. I think this should be colors, right? I made a mistake, guys. So this the actual value should goes into the main program. So let's do that way. Colors. Um, and then basically simply colors goes in here, right? So this should be colors choice. Okay. And then instead of color over here, I'm gonna say color choice. Okay. That's it. Okay. So this function 2. So let's try function 2 over here. So it's TED and then colors. So this is the colors. So I'm going to block this too. All right. So let's run this. So I got a pink circle. So you can see the color is also now randomly changing. Blue circle. And then the size is already built in, like they're also randomly changing, right? So likewise. Okay, guys. All right. So the last one, I think, to draw 10 of these, right? So we're gonna basically simply copy paste 10 times, right? Right. So come on. Yeah. Oh, I think I hit the insert button. Yeah. Okay. So we have 8 here. So one more. All right. And you can see that, right? Um, again, the idea same. I'm pushing. I have been pushing like several weeks now, right now, right? So we'll get something like this, right? And then one more time, we'll get something like this, right? So that's the idea. Okay. So then the question in this question, right? So let's answer this 5 question now. right? Write an operator and the respective operands you used in your code. Operands and operators. Anyone? So we only have today. So how many? Five people. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Equal to, right? Or equality operation. This one, right? Then hmm? This one and this one are the operands, right? Yeah. And then write a module name and the respective attribute you use in your code. What is that? Others should participate. Module name. See, the both answers are visible over here, right? I mean, yeah. So random module and then choice is the attribute, right? Right. Oh, random module and then rand int is the attribute, right? So yeah, okay. Write a formal parameter you use and then the respective argument actual parameter used. Okay. So let's focus on this one. Sorry, this function, right? What are formal parameters? Yeah, so these are all formal parameters, right? Total and colors. And then here's the call. So we see the actual parameter or the arguments in the call, and these are actually um, actual parameters or arguments. Okay, the respective. Yeah. Where did you use the benefit of writing functions in your code? What was that benefit? There are a couple, right? Benefit of writing functions. Oh, well, there are more, but at least. Um, so what are those? Yeah. Yeah. So basically, code reuse, right? So that's the code reuse usage of function. You don't have to copy paste or write code again and again. We can call the function instead, right? So that's why we call code reuse. What's the other obvious good thing of writing function? The well, you are right, but in particular to functions, writing functions, what's the advantage of writing function here? The other one, so code reuse one. Other obvious one we already discussed in module 5, right? Is the abstraction, right? So basically, you you take that code and you enclose it in a name, and then when anywhere that name like that function require, you basically call the function, right? So that's the basically you implement that, we implemented abstraction, and then basically that's the other usage, right? So basically right here, right? So where did you use benefits of writing function? One benefit basically abstraction, and then what was that benefit? Basically, you um, isolated the single task and gave it a name and then implemented that inside. Okay, that's abstraction. Um, all right. So let's sorry. So next question, this one. So now we copy pasted that 10 times, right? So to draw 10, right? But if it is 1000 and even copy pasting now a hassle, right? So you are now doing 1,000 times, right? And then that's basically, I've been asking this question several times now, right? So basically, to get you to thinking an idea, okay, there's got to be a better way of doing this, right? And then it's still coming, right? So hopefully next week we can actually start learning the loop lesson, and that's when we actually going to learn a syntax to automate this task, right? So being an intro class, some of you guys already know this, right? The loops, for loops, and things, right? But being an intro class, we haven't learned that topic, so we're gonna get into learn, okay, how can we do this without um, putting 1,000 lines into that code, right? So here we have 10 calls, right? So oops, here we have 10 calls, right? Right, for 1,000 we should have then 1,000 calls, right, to draw 1,000. But it's a hassle drawing, even copy paste in that many, right? And you will learn after, so in next week in the loop lesson, we can do so in 3 lines of code. Well, 2 lines of code, right? 2 lines, because function call and then the loop header, right? So in 2 lines of code, you will see that we can actually draw 1,000 random shapes. Okay, so we don't have to copy paste that mean, right? So we will learn that later. So basically, the idea of the question is to make you think, okay, there's got to be a better way of doing it, and then right now, well, we don't have, because we haven't learned it yet. So the answer, my answer is no. You can give a yes answer depending on an explanation, you still get points. Okay, so the reason is basically we haven't learned it yet. Okay, and then the proposal is going to be, well, implement repetition, right? So modern programming language, all of them have done that. Okay, all right, and that's it. Okay, all right, so let's move on to our lesson, guys. We did up to section 2, I believe. Yeah, we did this one, right? And then you can see that all of these are basically usage of is, if else, if elif and else. Okay, so they have, so the Cybook have broken it into several sections. Pretty much they're all kind of similar, right? But different usages of conditional execution, okay, or branching, right? And then if you take this example, right, take a look, right? So, and then this is basically picking age group into, I think, teams, right? So, right, so and you can see that we can use if, elif, and then else um, conditional statements to pick um, um, based on age into teams, right? So so let's, I'm going to quickly play that. Okay, so this is the, you can see that this is a simulation of how to figure that out, and then you can see all the ages up to 13 over here, and then 5 on the no teams, right? Okay, and then the next group is 6 and 7, so it's under 8 group, and then under 10 group likewise, right? And then here is the respective code, right, kind of pseudo code. Okay, so and then in this particular, so this is a particular usage, and then today also we're gonna, I think the group exercise will also encounter similar activity. can we shuffle this ordering? My question is, can this condition be the first one to check? No, right? Why not? Yeah, so then we'll pick the group wrongly, right? Because we are checking this. Remember, the code was top down, right? So usually any programming language, right? Like we start running from the top and then you go down, right? And then there's a branch, we branch out. Even the branches also works top down, right? We go to first branch, validate that. If it's not true, then we go to the next one likewise, right? So, and if we order the branches wrongly, we'll get the answer wrongly. Okay, so be very careful because it's a really common logical mistake. Students actually like misordering the branches. Um, so student actually ordering the branches incorrectly, right? So in this particular one, right, we first validate the age group 6 first, then go to the next one, right? If you do this one first, then we will not catch the age less than 6 properly, because everyone, both age less than 6 as well as age 6 and 7 also got into the same group. And even though if we add this one later, it will not work because we have done so already wrongly. Okay, so what my point is, yeah, we do this first and then we do this. No, it won't work because we have done this already. So those ages are now in the wrong group. Okay, be careful with that. Okay, so it's really common mistake. So it's actually a logical mistake. Okay, all right. I think we can go to the next section. So we already talked about these relational operators, right? So there are 4 of them over here. So less than, greater than, less than or equal, greater than or equals. What are the other 2 that we learned first? So there are 6 relational operators, right? 4 of them over here. Yeah. So equal to and not equal to, right? So those are the 2. So there are 6 relational operators. We also call them comparison operators as well as Boolean operators because they all return a Boolean value. Okay, either true or false. Let's quickly play this animation, guys. Okay, so you can see over here, right, the using the sequential nature of multi-branch if else for ranges. Okay, this is insurance policies. Okay, so there are age groups for the insurance as well, right? So so user input an age. Okay, and then if it is less than 16, well, we know that you cannot drive, right? So that's not an option. um, Too young is then. If it is, now you can check whether it's less than 25 because we already covered less than 16 group, right? So we are not making a mistake, guys, over here, right? We already, since we already covered less than 16 group, we can move on to the next group, which is less than 25. It's, yes, you can get an insurance, but it's expensive, right? Because of the age group, right? It's really expensive, right? For less than 25 people, right? So this one, so this you can see that we can like this one, you can actually do this in Python. Okay, so we call that operator chaining. Why it's called chaining? Because we have one operation over here, right, and then the other one over here, right? So you can put them together, and then that's like a chain, right? So we call operator chaining. Okay, so so let's see how it works, right? So we can do one of these examples. um, so let's go to our code. Okay, okay, so, so let's say a equals 10, b equals 20, and c equals 30, right? Okay, so me copy paste that line. Okay, so if you run this is written what? True, right? Because a less than b, correct, right? It's true. This is true because b is 20, right? And then b less than c as well. So this is also true, right? So if we give a smaller value, like let's say uh, 5 over here, so you can say that it's actually false, right? Because this is true, right? But then b also, we are comparing b now, right? So b is 20 and c is 5, so it's less than, right? So it's actually false. So c, okay. So and you can see the order of evaluation, right? We go basically from um, left to right, right? So we evaluate this one first, and we learned that, right? So remember the in the precedence lesson, right? We learned that if in a single line, right, if we have multiple operands, right, and if all of those operand have equal precedence, which we do like this one, right, because all of these relational operators have equal precedence, right? All 6 relational operators have equal precedence. So that means, so if all operators have equal precedence, then we basically execute them from left to right, right? Okay. So except for what? It's the power operator, right? Power operator works the other way. Yeah. Okay. So so basically, where are we? Where are we? No. Oh, right here. Okay. So this is basically, that means we do this first, and then we do this next. Okay. So yeah. So so basically, and you can see that if the result of the first comparison a less than b is false, then there's no need to continue evaluating the rest of the expression, right? So why is that? Yeah, then basically the next one also, right? Yeah. Okay. So and then basically that's how it's designed as well. Okay. Or that's the power of yet is the one that we're gonna watch. So I just published it. It's in module 9. Okay, and we're not gonna watch the whole thing, but we encountered this, right? You might recall we encountered this concept already in a different video, right? Does anyone recall? Yeah. So this was mentioned in the grit video. Remember grit? Yeah. Okay. So, but we're gonna watch only up to 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay. So we'll have to actually watch all of it to answer the question. All right. So let's continue. Let's do this last one, last challenge activity. Okay. So when the input variable temp in degrees is less than or equal to 31, output too cold, between 31 and 82, fine, and then greater than 82, too hot. Okay. So let's do that together. Okay. So temperature in degrees. Okay. So if, right, less than or equal to 31, right? So less than or equal to 31. So we're going to print too cold, right? Excuse me. This one actually cold. All right, and then the next one. So I'm going to add the print state and print lines later, guys. So next one is elif, right? And between, greater than 31, and then sorry, I think this should be like this one, right? 31, greater than, and then less than, exclusive of 82, 82. Sorry, and then else, right? Too hot. So print. So this is going to be too hot. So this is going to be fine. And it's going to be too cold. Okay. All right. So this one, let's check. Oh, I think I made a mistake, right? Is that? Yeah. So right here. This should be other way around. Yeah. All right. Oh, one. This. Okay. Why is that? Is that 82? This is fine. This is oh, inclusive, right? Should be equal, right? Okay, like this. Yep. Okay. All right. So next one is logical operators. And oh, and not. So this is basically a general situation, right? So basically, and then in English also we use them, right? So we call them conjunctions, right? At least and we call them, right? So we join um, agreeing sentences together using and, right? So um, yeah, something like that. So uh, but if we um, create a table like this, so for this we basically the utility of and, or, and not, so we call them logical operators, is basically um, they we can use to connect um, true false values, already true false values, and we can combine them using and. Okay, and or not. Okay, so so let's play this one, and you can see the choices are over here. So a and b can be um, true or false, and then we know that since there are two, there are four combinations of them, right? False, 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 true, true, false, true, true. It's like 0 1 1 0 1 1 sorry, 0 0 0 1 1 0 and 1 1 kind of thing, right? So so we call this the truth table actually, because these are true false values. We call this table a truth table. Okay, so and you can see that for and, if either of the value become false, the whole thing become false. And you can see that over here, to in order for and to return true, both a and b need to be true. Okay, for o on the other hand, right, so in order it to be false, the both option need to be false. Okay, so and then that's how it, and for not it basically inverts the outcome. So if it is uh, false, then it become true. If it is true, it become false. Okay, so that's not. Okay, all right. So uh, so logical, so we call them logical operators, and then basically if both a and b need to be again Boolean operands, so true or false values. Okay, and then when we combine them using and then in order to be able to true, both need to be true, right? True when both operands are true, right? And likewise, and for o, to be able to be true, right, at least one of the two operands need to be true. Okay, and not basically inverts the outcome. Okay, okay. And then take a look over here. I think this link should work. Yeah. So this is from Craig actually. That's a explanation on how the Boolean operators and then they work. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go back actually. Okay. Okay. So and in actual our code, right, the actual operators are a, so the small and o and not, right. So if we say a and b, basically we call it boolean and then works the same way like logical and, right. So it's basically true when both operands are true, and likewise for o and not. Okay. And here are some examples, right, and you can easily combine Boolean expression. So for example, this one is a Boolean expression, right, because it's evaluated to either true or false. And this one also a Boolean expression, so that also evaluated true or false. And we can combine the two to create a big Boolean expression, which is this one. Okay. So and then this way we can sometimes combine choices into one big check and then execute that one. Okay. So let's do, yeah, let's do this one, guys. Okay. So modify the given if statement so that teenager is output if input age is in the range 13 and 19 inclusive. And you can see that so there are logical operators over here, like o here, right, right. So how do we change this? And this need to be, yes, and yes. Is that all, or we need something else? I think that's all, right? So greater than equals it's teenager, right? Less than or equals 19, that's a teenager, and then we are checking both by combining using and, right? So both need to be true, right? If this only be true, right? So they basically, if we have o here, right? So that means only one of them can be true, and then we get true, right? The reason is we are printing teenage over here, right? So that's inside the if statement, right? So that means to be able to print this, then this whole thing need you have to be, whole expression need to be evaluated to what? In order to print teenager, this whole thing need to be evaluated to true, right? So that's how if statement work, guys, right? So after if, that expression which we call a Boolean expression need to be evaluated to true in order to go to respect to code underneath that if statement, which is in this case line 5, right? So that means, so this both need to be if we have o here, right, what happened is when only one is true, this whole thing become true, right? So then this will print. So that means for age 21 also it will work, because we are only checking this one, right? So that means we'll have to, no, not or we should have and here, because you need to cover both these choices, both these ranges, right? And then that means we need and here, and I think these are actually correct. So let's check that. All right. Yep. Okay. I think yeah, so we're gonna do the next one next week, guys. Okay, so will finish this module, sorry, Thursday, this Thursday. Yeah, I think, and I'll go over the, yeah, I'll go over the the assignment, and then 3 assignment, the lab and the programming assignment, and this one on Thursday. Okay. All right. So let's um, so today we're gonna go this one. So I just published, guys. It's letter grade of CS 110A. It's in module 9. Okay. So in here, so we have dictionaries. I'm going to quickly show you how this works. Okay. So right here, I'm going to create this dictionary. So grades. Okay. Okay, let me ask this question. How can I access Jill's grade given this dictionary? Oh, let me wait a second. I'm going to explain the values. So this is we actually encountered dictionary, but we didn't actually studied learn dictionary in depth, right? In the module 8 under types, we encountered dictionary, but we didn't kind of didn't go in detail, right? So um, dictionaries we call key value pairs. This is a one key value pair, and the other key value pair, and the other, and likewise. So we separate key value pairs with a comma. So this is syntax notation. Okay, and in a single key value pair, the first entity is the key. So in this, in here, Kate is the key, and the value is 90. So this, in a single pair of key value pair, we separate the key and the value with the colon. Okay, so this is again syntax notation in Python. Okay, so now my question is, given grades, how can I access Jill's grade? Yes. Yeah, index operator, right? Yeah. So basically grades, and then so this operator, right? And then Jill, right? Yeah. So so this is how you access a value in a dictionary. Okay. Okay. So we'll get the oops, I think made a mistake. Grade. Oh, grades misspelled. Okay. So got 95. Okay. So keep that in mind. Okay. When you do this question, because you need that knowledge actually. Okay. All right. Take a look at the syllabus as well. So there's a criteria, right? So if it is not, it's not 90 for B, it's not 90, but if you get 89.1, something like that, also I'll give you an A for that. So it's the way, but that's how I actually, when I grade students and the end, when I figure out letter grades, that's how it actually works.